All right, with Cooper Flagg being the favorite to now win the Player of the Year award, there is some rumblings going on out there in the college basketball sphere that Duke has become sort of a likable entity, which I don't know that we're necessarily buying.
Where are these rumblings?
Hey. I don't know. So we're here to prove everybody wrong because we got 5 of the most polarizing figures in Duke men's basketball history. And we start off with number 5, and it's Grant Hill. Grant Hill coming in at the number 5 spot. What do we think about that?
I struggle with that one. I feel like, the list of the top 4, I think we're really getting meaty here. Here, I will take you back to my childhood, though.
Yeah.
We hated this Duke team growing up.
Yeah.
We called them the Choir Boys.
Yeah.
We liked UNLV. That when they beat UNLV, big UNLV fan back then.
Yeah.
That play is iconic. We get it. I don't hate Grant now. It's like he's transcended that era. But in that era, I sure as hell didn't like him.
It's funny, you put a Duke jersey on him, and it's like, God. And
that's
then
the issue.
Get out of the Duke jersey, you're fine.
Yeah, it's hard to hate Grant Hill because he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, was a great basketball player. I think if you go back and you watch the Fab Five, 30 for 30, I believe it was Jalen Rose does a very brief summary of why a lot of people did not like Grant Hill.
Yeah.
So I would just
Polarizing is a good word for this. Polarizing
yes.
That's a good word.
91-92 champion team, Grant Hill. Steve Wojciechowski, too. Number 4 coming on this list. 2-time All-ACC player. Number 4 for Steve.
All right, we're going to say this for the rest of this list from 2 real light-skinned mixed guys here. The white dude from Duke is just the most hateable guy in the world.
Yeah.
So that's part of the mix here going forward. And Wojo, the slap on the floor, the overachiever, people couldn't stand it, but he exudes everything you want in a point guard. Like he was a general on the floor, he was tough as could be, and they won games. But I couldn't. I just was repulsed by him.
He always hit the floor, wasn't that his thing? He was the floor slapper.
And that's the part for me is the floor slapping. Like a lot of I gotta calm myself down. Listen, a lot of everybody's issue with Duke is just a lot of the decorum, as they might describe it, that went along with this team. The floor slapping, all of that stuff. It was such a turnoff.
Yeah.
for a team that was just so buttoned up, shirt tucked in, you know, all that stuff. So Steve, great player. Like, right? Like that.
Good,
that is,
great player, good dude. All of these are good players.
Yeah, great players, great dudes.
And that's a part of the issue is the reason people hate you is because you're good. So that is the ultimate compliment to everybody on this list, right? You're not on this list if you were not good.
I never understood slapping the floor. Who's that for? I mean, you're trying to get your team riled up.
The whole place got hyped. I don't know.
Did you ever slap the floor when you were playing?
Yeah, well, then we started doing it too. Like kids would do it. And like, but my coach like, defense at every camp. They were slapping the floor, yelling defense. We're doing defensive slides. It became like a thing that we were doing.
All right, fair enough. This is where things really get interesting. We go to number 3, Grayson Allen. I feel like it's all about your era that you grew up watching. Like the Grayson Allen era that I grew up watching him, like just tripping players intentionally or not. Like it was one of those things where you're like, I do not like you.
So this is the one player on the list that I think if you take him out of a Duke uniform, he would be disliked anywhere that he went because
so he raises above it. He's above the Duke.
In a sense, yes, because the tripping stuff. I mean, it's easy to forget now. Like that was a huge deal. Like that led sports centers at times.
Dirty plays.
Because they were genuinely dirty plays. And you throw the Duke jersey on, and that stench, man, it's a little stronger.
And you said sports centers. Because as you can, it was multiple times. That was the issue here. This was not a one and done situation. Like, look, I mean, this is so bad. Now, the weird part about this, remember in 2015 when he came on the scene, nobody remembered who he was. He had some great games in that tournament run that helped lead them to win a national championship as a bit part player, became a huge player on the team. But people remember the trips because it became also in that world too. Twitter was becoming a whole different thing, social media a different thing, and I had so many non-hoops friends be like, What's this guy all about? What's happening here? And then the Duke piece creates a whole different element.
All right, so Grayson Allen comes in at number 3. Number 2 and number 1, you could probably flip either way. Again, depending on the era that you grew up watching Duke basketball. We went number 2 with J.J. Redick.
This is the ultimate debate. It's who's 2 and who's 1. And Redick reveled, and that's like the top 2. He reveled in the fact that he was hated. And he tells the stories about playing at Maryland and how brutal those rivalries were. Things are saying about his mom and his family, but he held nothing better than to shut you up by getting buckets. And I will say this, we were the same year. I chucked a lot of threes too in college. My mom one time was watching one of his games like, why don't you play more like him? I'm out here trying, lady. He's the national player of the year.
That's right. Come on, Dalen, be a little better.
Be a little better. But, I mean, yeah, that guy was exceptional. But he loved being hated, and he just rose above it.
Yes, and that part is more difficult for people if they already don't like you and you're leaning into it. I mean, Redick, that was my era growing up, like watching him going up, beating up against those Georgia Tech teams that used to be good that we were talking about off camera. Those Maryland games, instant classics, like you had to be in front of the TV because you wanted to see him lose, but you also couldn't help but watch him be great. And so I will say our number one gets seniority because, I mean, he is the standard. Right. And so you have to give it to him, and he's grandfathered in. But my personal number one would probably be that guy.
Okay, fair enough. Well, number one, Christian Laettner. I mean, the one thing J.J. Redick did not have is a 30 for 30 on it, right? I mean, that's the ultimate.
With the word hate in the title.
Yeah, kind of the ultimate thing for Christian Laettner. But I don't know. I mean, I actually recently watched that 30 for 30 just because I was, didn't have a ton to do over the break. And I was like, I don't know. I kind of like Christian Laettner.
This is what's funny is that game where that Kentucky shot, again, he was 10 for 10 in that game from the field, 10 for 10 from free throw. It's the perfect game. I remember I was where I was. I was on a cruise with my brothers watching this game. My mom was travel age. We could travel a lot when I was a kid. It was awesome. We traveled for free. I'm in the top bunk. He hits that shot. I got pulled down, and the crap kicked out of me for no reason. Other than my older brother just wanted to just release frustration as that happened. But like clearly that affected me for a long time.
You probably don't like him now then.
I don't like him. Just took a beating for that. And again, as I mentioned, we didn't want the choir boys to win. So that was a dagger. But his success in that era may never be replicated. He went to 4 Final Fours. He won 2 of them. National Player of the Year. Like, he was on the dream team.
Right.
But when you watch the documentary, you understand why he was the first truly Duke-hated player.
Yeah.
But again, an amazing player and a great dude by and large. But this is what we remember.
The only thing that I will add is when I was in probably elementary school aged at some point, I was not old enough to truly understand the whole Christian Laettner thing, but when I played youth basketball, I played with his nephew.
Whoa.
And I remember my mom bringing the news to my dad that Christian Laettner's nephew was on our team, and I just remember the look on my dad's face, and that's all I needed to know.
How do you play?
He was not very good.
Well, fair enough.
Sorry, CJ. I hope he's doing great.
Put him on blast.
It's a high bar. It's a high bar. His uncle's one of the best ever to do.
All right, so that is our top 5 of, I guess, the most controversial Duke players, polarizing players in Duke history. We went Grant Hill, Woj, we went Grayson Allen, J.J. Redick, and number 1, Christian Laettner.